Hi John, fantastic session this morning. Just a quick recap on the key points that we discussed. Just adding more detail to what we did on your first visit. Developing the drill so that it attacks your three main issues. We discussed how this drill can be tweaked, how it can be used in practice, etc., etc., to attack the problems that you've got. So, initially, when we looked at your swing, the first issue is that the shaft gets a little bit too vertical at impact. The body tends to be stopping, just stalling a little bit. It's a move that you used to have to make because of the reroute you've historically had in the swing to turn the corner down at the bottom. It's not necessarily a move you need to make as much anymore, but it is in there. When we lack shaft lean, it has a subsequent effect later in the swing, but the main issue we get is a little bit of a loss of low point control, so the strike goes a little bit and we get a situation where our ability to create the face and path relationship we want to impact is compromised. So the first area we need to look at with this drill is improving the angle of the shaft at impact. So if for whatever reason we start to lose low point control, this is the first drill we should go to. Weight forward, ball back, and the emphasis is just little swings, making sure that the handle is leading the club head into impact. When you're doing this drill, don't be shy, get the ball well back, get the weight well forward, as you see here. This is all about familiarity, conditioning. The more you feel this in practice, the more you demonstrate that in practice, the more the swing on the left will improve. So that's the first use of the drill. If we start to get low point issues, we're going along nicely, we're playing, and then suddenly we start to miss-hit a few, straight to that drill. So that's its very basic use to help with your low point and leaning the shaft more into impact. The next issue that we have when we look at the swing is that, as we discussed this morning, you're more of a flexor of the lead wrist rather than a roller of the lead wrist. So your tendency is to hang this ball out to the right. Whenever the lead wrist is flexing, the club face is opening to the path. And if the club face gets too much to the right, we're going to hang this shot out to the right. So what we said we want to have is a different wrist condition coming through impact. When the shaft is parallel with the ground, we want this to happen later, and we want to improve the relationship between, if you will, the left forearm and the shaft of the golf club. As you'll see, this also has a knock-on effect with what the body is doing as well at this point. So now we've got the same drill, but we've got the emphasis on keeping the arms bolt straight all the way through. And the thought pattern here is with the ball back and the weight forward, as you come through the hit, you've got to extend, you've got to push up out the ground, which we'll come to shortly. But we want to keep those arms bolt straight, and we want the arms and the shaft pointing straight down the range, as per that demonstration there. So you can see here, when we take that back a frame or two, we've now got a situation where the relationship between the left arm and the shaft is much flatter. There's been less flexing of the lead wrist. Therefore, we've hit out of the ball for longer, and we stand more of a chance of creating a face that is slightly left of the path. So again, when we're doing this drill, we can focus on different aspects of it. Initially, if low point's an issue, all we're concentrating on is weight forward, handle forward at impact. If we're striking the ball nicely, but we're just hanging it out right, so we're working on controlling the curve on the ball, then we want to flatten out that left wrist, raise the handle more through the hit. We showed you the effect that has, on the club face's relationship to the path. And it also starts to have a nice effect on the body. You can see the little bit of flex in the right knee, but nowhere near as much as normal. The body is turned much more. So more of a continuous turn. which is all good stuff for preventing that sort of flipped feel that you can have through the hit. So that's controlling the curve on the ball, getting that ball to draw a little bit more if you want to work on the curvature of your shots. The final issue we discussed was more nuisance value than anything. We get that flex going in through the hit. Now, whilst it happens much later, and it happens largely because it's what you've needed to do in the past, it's still a nuisance. Whenever we feel it, we're going to be on sort of red alert. We're never going to commit fully to the shots. You can see there, I mean, this is your swing from your first visit or your most recent first visit after a couple of years away. Overtaking rate very high, flex going in the legs, head drifting forward. When done at its worst, the flex in the knee is greater, the hips angled down a little bit, the spine drifts forward a little bit, and the overtaking is even greater. So we're seeing a sort of diluted version of a fault that we've had in the past. So again, using the same drill, what we're going to do now is we're asking you to, with the ball way back and the weight way forward, hit the ball as high as we can. Now, generally speaking, if players are asked to launch the ball higher, number of changes they would make. First of all, a lot of players would put the ball forward. That's fine. I haven't got a problem with that at all. They would also start to maybe flex the left wrist a little bit more, which again, we're trying to get out your game. But not at this moment in time, we're trying to teach you to extend properly. That's the piece that you can use to launch this ball high, to shallow out this angle of attack, without changing your ball position and your weight location. So the weight's forward, the ball's back. You can still launch it higher by pushing up out the ground more. You can see as you do that, the right leg straightens more incrementally throughout the swing. The overtaking rate is much less. The arms are straighter for longer. But more importantly, what we start to see is the spine stretching off more. The leg regaining or holding on to flex much less. And the hips or the pelvis coming out of its forward tilt a little bit more as well. So that's another use of the drill. If you're going along and you're playing and you just want to get rid of that, you get that feel of regaining a little bit of flex. Excuse me, someone just sending me a text. Regaining a little bit of flex, then go straight to that drill. Maybe it doesn't take as much work as you think. Use the drills. You've got three. You've got the same basic drill, but tweaked to suit three certain issues. You can use that drill ongoing. If you're ticking over, hit 10 balls with each version of it, if you will, just to keep the same principles ticking over. If you're struggling with your low point, drill number 1. If you're struggling with your curve, drill number 2. And if you're struggling with that sort of feel that you've had, which, like I say, doesn't necessarily have that much effect on your ball flight anymore, other than alarm bells start ringing, you start doubting yourself, etc., then drill number 3. So good luck with it. Keep applying the same process. Things are moving on nicely. I'd be really interested to see where this one ends up in 3 or 4 weeks' time. Well done.